What's going on, guys? It's your boy Jay Ridge back for another NBA Best Bets presented by Pinnacle Sportsbook, your trusted sportsbook for the past 25 years. We have a pair of massive Game 5s today. The New York Knicks and Indiana Pacers, along with the Minnesota Timberwolves and Denver Nuggets, both tied at 2-2. They're playing in New York and in Denver. Let's get into the best bets right now. So as you guys can see here, these are all the major lines for the games tonight, along with the games that are tomorrow as well. Fully expect Boston to take care of business, but Dallas and OKC, that's going to be tough. I might take Dallas on the spread. It's going to be a tight series. It's going to be a tight game. All of them have been. But let's start with the New York Knicks and Indiana Pacers, but we're not going to start with the game itself because I do want to show you this NBA series prices best of 7 market because the Indiana Pacers are favored right now over the New York Knicks. And if you just think logically about this situation, the Pacers right now are 2.5-point dogs on the road in New York. Okay, sure. OG Anunoby is out. Jalen Brunson is hobbled. This team is bursting at the seams. And even when you look at series pricing, Indiana is favored. So I can't really make sense as to why Indiana isn't favored in this game. I would take them on the money line. If you expect them to win the series, if they're favored to win the series, their best shot to do that is win Game 5 on the road and then win Game 6 at home. That is the easiest path. That is the best path. Even though the Knicks are hobbled, they're going to get more and more healthy as the series goes on. And I believe there is a much better chance of Indiana losing if they have to go to the Garden on Game 7 and try and win that game. So when you look at that series pricing and see that Indiana is favored, along with the fact that you're getting them as dogs, you could take them at the plus 2.5 if you want. But for me, and the way I look at it, I'd rather just take them on the money line. When you look at the result, especially, all of these games have been, within 5, some within 5 points, 10 points, 4 points, very close games. Like Game 1, they covered the 6 points. Game 2, they weren't able to cover the 4.5. Then they won by 5, and now they just blew out the Knicks by a ton of points in the last game because they are playing worse and worse basketball. So for me, the best bet has to be the Pacers. The Pacers are probably going to win this game. They're much healthier. OG Anunoby is already ruled out, and he is a massive reason why this defense is so good and is what it is. We don't know the health of Jalen Brunson. Could he turn a Superman performance and ultimately help the Knicks win this game? Sure, he could. But the Pacers are going to run. They are playing much better. And more importantly, they've also been very consistent. One of the numbers you see here, and one of the bets you could take as well, is the Pacers over 107.5. And the reason why I bring this up, if you look at their totals this series, 117, 121, 111, 121 again. They've been between 121 and 111 every single game this series, whether it's at home or on the road. And all of those totals are above this 107.5. So I do like that bet as well. But for me right now, in the way that I see it, it's kind of a lean more than a play because personally, I do prefer the under because we don't know what we're going to get from the Knicks in this game. So I'm kind of leaning on the under. Maybe the Pacers don't need to score 108, 111 points. So I will not be taking the over on the team total, even though I do really like the bet. You see, they've gone over every game this series because I do slightly lean on the under. So whether you want the plus 2.5 for the Pacers or the money line, I like both lines, and I'd be more than happy to take either one. And I just really, really need to stress this. When you look and see minus 138, that should tell you everything you need to know about where this series is probably headed, and it speaks to the relative health of the Indiana Pacers. But the game itself, I'll be taking the money line. If you want the spread, go ahead and take it. But as you can see, it's going closer and closer on the Indiana side because everyone understands what's going on here between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. But let's get into the Timberwolves and Denver Nuggets because, this is a tough one for me. This is a tough one. That 3.5 point, 4 point, 4.5 point, slightly more than a one possession game. It's very difficult. This game is so pivotal. You look at the spreads in the series, 4.5, obviously Minnesota covered, 7 for Denver, and they didn't cover because they got blown out. Then you look at 3.5 for Minnesota. Denver obviously covered that one, and then 4 in the following game. The bigger point for me here is you look at this series. First game was fairly close, but it was kind of a bit of a blowout. Second game, blowout. Third game, blowout. Fourth game, very close. And more importantly, Minnesota started to win some quarters and eat into that lead late in that game, even though they were down big in the first half. Now they go back to Denver. They're 4-point dogs. The total of 205 is very interesting because every game this series, they've gone over the 205. And in my opinion, one of the reasons I really like the over 205, you see on Pinnacle here, it's 206, is because it finally seems like both teams and both offenses are clicking. Both teams want to win. Both teams know how pivotal this game 5 will be. Both teams have only won their games on the road so far. So Denver has the opportunity to get the upper hand. I think that the over is definitely in play. It just depends on how fast the pace ultimately is. You look at the last couple of games, the teams have been scoring much better. There hasn't been as many blowouts. They've been more competitive, and that's the reason why I like the over. But when you're talking about who's going to win the game, I'm taking the chance. I'm taking the home team. I have to. You can't bet against Denver at home. I think the 4 points is a little bit more than I'd like. I think 3.5 is the perfect line. You take Denver and you're like, oh, thank God. But at 4.5, it starts to get a little bit dicier because you know this series and this game is going to be very tight because both teams know how to play against each other, know how to win, but the momentum is 100% on Denver's side. They're coming home after winning back-to-back games in Minnesota. There's no way I can fade Denver in this instance. I have to take them. Minnesota could absolutely cover the spread, but when you see the 4, especially at the -110, it's probably going to go to 4.5 or 5, and so you want to get it while you have that 4 number. I'm very excited for this game tonight. It should be phenomenal, but I have to back Denver, and I will also be on the over as well because anytime they've been over 205, 206, they've been going over in those games, and I think both teams are playing phenomenal basketball right now. And you look at Anthony Edwards, I mean, what's his points line right now for the props? Let's see if we can find that because, I mean, it's got to be 20, 29, yeah. Even at 29.5, lean under, I mean, I don't know if I could do that, but for me, the best bet, you have to go back to the spread for the Denver Nuggets and the over. I like both those a lot, and I'm really excited for tonight's slate. I think Indiana's going to win. I think Denver's going to win, but I think both these games, well, more so the Minnesota-Denver game, are going to be very, very exciting. You take the Celtics if you want, but the money line, I mean, what's the point? Do they cover the spread? That's more difficult, and if I was making a decision today, I'd probably take Dallas plus 4.5. So that's it for me. Quick recap of the plays. We're taking the Indiana Pacers on the money line with a slight lean to their team total over 107.5. They've hit that in every game this series. And then between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets, we like the over 206, and we're taking the Denver Nuggets -4. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can follow me on Twitter or X at your boy Jay Rich, and make sure you're following Pinnacle across all of our socials. Good luck tonight, and as always, bet smart and bet Pinnacle. I'll see you guys next week. I'm out. Peace.